In chapters 5 and 6, Maimonides begins to deal with some technical aspects of mitzvot, which is the general character of Mishnah Torah as well as halakha in general. There are several mitzvot which are broad and ideological, like the ones we've been talking about, such as the mitzvah to know, love, and fear God. And as we'll see later, the commandment to walk in his ways, but the majority of the mitzvot are of a technical character. For example, the parameters of Shabbat, or eating matzah on Passover, or the various civil statutes and laws of marriage. In these videos, though, my focus is on the philosophical ideas of Sefer Hamada, so I'm going to focus on that and not go into technical halakhic analysis at this point. In the videos on the next book of Sefer Deo, we will talk about the nature of the mitzvah and why they are of this character of having rigid physical specifications. So we can skip through. I encourage you to read chapter 5 just to see what it says, but we're going to skip through it for now. And we're going to look a little bit in chapter 6, which is talking about the sanctification of God's name, and is talking about some of the names of God, which names are most holy, which names are next in holiness. So the most holy name of God is the Shem Hamaforish. It's Yud, and then Hey, and then Vav, and then Hey. Maimonides here makes an effort to not actually write it out, to emphasize its sanctity. The meaning of this name is it's a combination of the various verb forms of to be. We talked about in chapter 1 about the nature of God's existence and how it's unique, that he always exists. So this name is kind of conveying this idea that if you were to say was, it would be hey. Oops. It would be a hey and then a vav, or a hey and then a yud, and then a hey. He is would be hove, a hey, a vav, and then a hey. And he will be yeh would be a yud, a hey, a yud, and a hey. So the yud and the hey and the vav and the hey is a combination of all these things and indicates God's absolute existence. It's called the Tetragrammaton in English, and this is considered to be his holiest name, and if it's written, you shouldn't destroy it. And Maimonides goes into the technical aspects of the halakha there. This is the name of God, which is typically employed by the Bible when God is communicating through prophecy. The other names of God that you find typically in the Bible are derived from the term El, which is a generic term for king or ruler, and you will see it applied in other contexts apart from being applied to God. You'll see it applied to actual kings or to angels and things like this. What you see most commonly in the Bible is the term Elohim used for God, and this is generally used when describing God's actions in the world through a multitude of forces. So since there is multiplicity in how he's acting through, like the angels and the spheres, that is why a plural form is used for this name. Yeah, I mentioned that sometimes you'll see El refer to other things besides God, like you'll see Elohai being used in reference to angels sometimes, and I'll show you an example that in Exodus, when it's talking about constructing the cherubim, the cherubs, which are a type of angel that are placed upon the Ark of the Covenant, where the Ten Commandments were, and the presence of God would dwell above the angels, that it's written, Lo sasini ti Elohei kasef Elohei zahav lo sasu lachem, that you should not make gods of silver or you should not make gods of silver or gods of gold, and you shouldn't make them for yourselves. That the classical commentator Rashi is going to point out to us that the gods of silver is referring to the cherubim that are commanded to make for the Ark of the Covenant in the temple, that it says to make them out of gold, so you shouldn't make them out of silver. And the passage mentions that you shouldn't make gods of gold to imply that you shouldn't make any more than two, any more than what was commanded to be made. And you should not make them for yourselves means that outside of the temple, like in a synagogue or a study hall, you should not make any statues of angels, Elohai, Elohim, for yourselves in your synagogues or in your houses for that matter. So we see how the name Elohim is kind of applied to God as a homonym, and it's still considered sacred, but not as sacred as the name Yud K Vav K.